Hello everyone, this is Spidey, and welcome to Make It Minecraft, the series where I take real-life things and try to make them into Minecraft. I'm here with my first episode with this bowling alley that you see next to me here. It is fully functional, 10 pins. If you haven't seen the trailer for it, make sure you check it out so you can have all the details. But I'd like to get right into building this awesome thing. For a build this complex, you will need to make sure you have plenty of room to build all the redstone components. The exact version I'm showing in this video, you will need a space that is at least 12 blocks in height, 13 blocks in width, and 25 blocks in depth. It is a good idea to create a template or cutout to determine where the floor of the bowling lane will be before you get started making the mechanism. You want the back right corner of the floor to be 7 blocks in from the right side of your build space and 4 blocks from the back. Any slab or carpet will work for this build, and a 3x16 floor will be placed directly above the build space. We are going to start off the redstone tutorial at the platform for the bowling pins, which we will need to move these back 10 slabs down 1 block so that the pins can sit on top of them when they are added. From there, we will build down 3 blocks and build a platform where we will have sticky pistons facing up into those half slabs. And then we will build a second platform for some redstone torches that'll power the pistons. We can also add our input systems, which will be hoppers flowing into droppers. Coming out 3 blocks from the platform we just built, we place downwards facing hoppers across the bottom of the slabs. Then a single hopper out 4 blocks from those 3. Then we can place droppers beneath each hopper. It is about time we start bringing this thing to life with some redstone wiring, which I have broken up into sections for you guys to hopefully make this easier to follow. We will start with the left section here, or the blue section, and we will build out all the blocks in which we will need to place our redstone wiring on. The first few blocks outlining the torch platform, and then making a 3x5 rectangle next to it. On top of that platform, we make a 3x4 T pointed towards the back of the bowling alley, and to the left of that, we place 2 more blocks in an alternating pattern. At the front of that 3x5 platform, we can go ahead and place 2 more rows of blocks. And now here's where things might get a little bit tricky, so follow along the best you can. I will try to be as slow as possible. In front of our platform we just created, make a 2-step stair pattern pointed towards the back. Then directly above the inside corner, we build up 3 blocks and remove the first of those 3 blocks. Then up and over from our first stair pattern, we build a second one facing towards the front, again being 2 blocks. And directly above that, we build a smiley face pattern, which is 3 blocks at the base and then a block on each end. Then stepping up 1 more block on the end of the smiley face towards the back, as well as a step in the same spot but towards the center. We will top all that off with 1 more block before moving into the last section of this portion, which from the block going towards the center, we will step down 1 block and place in 2 blocks heading towards the back. Finally, down at the base platform once more to add a little 3-block corner here on the inside before calling this section complete. Now we can start wiring this thing up, starting with some repeaters and some dust, making 3 different lines that all feed into the torches that we had started out with, which I know just looks like a cluster of redstone at the moment, but you'll see later on we do close all 3 lines off. Continuing up the rest of the blocks, we can place our last couple pieces of dust before grabbing all the extra goodies. Again, just following along, we start with a redstone torch on top of this block here, which will be powering a sticky piston that'll be above all the redstone and repeaters. Then moving over to here, we place down a redstone repeater with a full 4 ticks of delay, which will be going into a dropper, and this dropper will be shooting things into this hopper, which will flow back into the dropper. We will take a comparator output from the hopper into the block, which sends a signal to the redstone and into the repeater it's connected to, which will send a signal into this block and back to the hopper to lock it. Now we can move up here and place in 2 more repeaters, this one being at a full 4 ticks delay, and this one being at its regular 1. Now at the dropper at the top, we want to take a comparator output out of that into a redstone torch, which will power this redstone, turning off this torch, which will then be powering this repeater, which powers the block that activates the dropper. Finally, as I said we'd do earlier, we can close off all of this redstone at the front, and this portion is done. So now we can come over to this dropper and configure its settings. To do this, you'll need some stackable items like blocks and non-stackable items like wood tools. The more non-stackable items you put in, the greater chance you have to knock down more pins. From my experience, 3 or a 33% chance is what I find works most realistically. For the right side or the red side, it is exactly the same as the blue side, just mirrored. So I'm going to speed up through this one, but for you guys, just copy what you did on the blue side, just mirror it to the red side, and you're good to go. The central green section looks a little different than the red and blue sections, but uses the same redstone. So just watch carefully as we go about building this one. A block out from the front of the dropper, we will build a diamond, which has 2 blocks off the right side of it. A step up from those, we will also add a block. From the bottom of the diamond, we can build more steps downwards, one facing towards the left, and one facing towards the front, as well as a step back up from there. And from there, building 2 final steps down to the left. Then swinging back over to the right side, we build down 1 more step off the front. Here's where things should get a little more recognizable. Placing a block down into the back left of the steps we just made, then 3 blocks to the right of that, adding a set of 2 steps. Head back over to the left block, and we can make a 3-block corner with a 4th block above that. 2 blocks below that, we can build a 3-block bridge going towards the right. Then, at the ends of that bridge, we continue to step down 2 blocks, headed towards the back. Off of the left end, we can build over to the left 1 block, and then from there, back 3 more, before stepping up a block and making a 2x2 platform. From the right end, we build back 5 blocks, then make a step up. 2 blocks out from that step, we make sort of an exclamation mark shape, like so. From the dot of the exclamation mark, we build back a block, as well as a step up. We then place a slab here to make sure the redstone doesn't get cut off. Continuing this backside, we make a 3x3 T pointed towards the front, and above that, a 3x2 T pointed towards the back. Finally, a step up from the left side of the bottom T pointed at the front. Wiring this section up, we will start with a comparator output from the dropper, which will power this redstone dust and this torch. From there we can power the redstone into a repeater, which will invert this torch. Heading down the circuit, we add a repeater on 1 tick, which will power this dust into another repeater, which has a full 4 tick delay. Next, we make our randomizer, which is exactly like the other 2 sections that we've made. We have a dropper flowing into a hopper, and a comparator output from it. The comparator signal will power this redstone dust, which is connected to a repeater. To the other side of the section, we will place a torch on the step, powered by this dust, and powering this sticky piston. At the bottom here, we will have the connections to the pins, adding redstone dust along the first 3 blocks, which then powers the repeaters. Redstone all the way down these strips, with more repeaters at the ends. The left one here will power this torch, which turns on this dust, as well as these 2 repeaters. We need to add a row of torches along the middle here, which will be powered by those repeaters. The right connection will have torches on the side and the back of this block. Then we continue to the rest of the spots, placing down redstone dust. Finally, we need to add 2 more torches off the fronts of these blocks. Filling the randomizer up with all the same items as we did the other 2 randomizers, and we give this thing a whirl. Up next is the combo circuit, which will power all 3 of our sections. But before we do that, let's start our ball return to make sure we have room. Leaving a 1 block gap between the droppers, we can start placing all the hoppers. Now this part does not matter if it is done exactly as you see here, as long as the hoppers all flow items to one given spot, and do not interfere with any of the redstone circuits. On the topic of that, we should come down to the green circuit here, and place a tripwire hook, which will reorient that redstone from flowing into the hopper. Starting on the combo circuit, we make a diamond shape off the front of the center dropper, with an extra block off to the right, as well as a line of 2 blocks off the bottom left. Adding a step up to avoid interference with the hopper below, and we do the same thing to the other side. From here, we place a block next to this hopper. Then coming around to the other side of the dropper, we add a block under the red circuit. Two final blocks will be placed, one here at the side of the red block, and one here at the back of the dropper. Now, the redstone for this one is pretty easy. Like the other 3 circuits, we start with a comparator output from our dropper, powering a piece of redstone dust, as well as a repeater to activate the green circuit. Then, over towards the red circuit, we do the same. Dust, and repeater. We also need to get this signal to reach the other side of the dropper, so we will start with a repeater that runs into this dust. The redstone will power this torch, which inverts the torch above it, powering this redstone dust. Whoa, hi, Future Spidey here. The setup I showed you will work, but as you can see here on the second turn of outputs, the front pin gets powered and lifts up for a second, which of course we don't want to happen. So instead, We'll place dust on top of the torch, and move the top torch above our redstone dust that will power the dropper. And as you can see, problem solved. The last couple bits of redstone for the yellow circuit will be our redstone dust and repeater to connect to the blue circuit, as well as some extra redstone bits to connect to the green section. And with that, our redstone bowling alley could be considered complete. But why would you want to stop there? Let's make this thing fully functional. Starting with a reset switch, we find a good spot to set down an input. I like to make mine look like a computer with a pressure plate as a keyboard. Then setting up signals to connect to all the sticky pistons that we placed in each circuit. Again, for this part you don't have to follow me exactly, just make sure that everything is connected. Over here we'll have the ball return, so we get a dropper facing upwards, and then connect our hopper system from earlier up to that dropper. A step up from there we can make a dropper tower with a chest at the very top. Back at the bottom we'll place one more hopper to connect both dropper systems. Then we start the redstone on this portion, which, like the other sections, will start with a comparator output into dust, into a repeater, which will power our first dropper here. Below the block powered by the comparator output, we can add a dot of redstone. Then again, like the other circuits, a dropper and hopper feeding into each other. Then adding another comparator output from the hopper, powering a line of redstone dust, which needs to be exactly 4 blocks in length for this part to work, and I'll explain later as to why. Finally, adding a repeater into a block with a torch below the hopper and a block on top of it so the hopper gets locked. We also need to extend the signal from the repeater over to the reset system so that the pins reset after the second turn. In the dropper, we need to add 2 non-stackable items. I just randomly chose enchanted books, and these will shoot into the hopper once per turn, both being in the hopper on the second turn. That will give the comparator just enough power to reach the end of that 4 redstone line. Before we get too carried away, let's get some power to the dropper tower. To do this, we'll take a comparator output from the bottom dropper on the tower, then create a pulse extender, which is 4 comparators with redstone on each end to create a loop. We'll connect all this to a repeater, which will power a sticky piston. The sticky piston will move a tower of slime blocks stuck to observers, making sure the observers are pointed into the slime blocks. We will also add a tower of observers pointed towards the dropper tower. Whoa, hey, I'm back again. Just letting you know that you'll also need a repeater right after the comparator that's coming off the dropper tower. Oh no, not again. Our final circuit will be the pink circuit, which is totally optional, but its purpose is to give an additional chance for a strike after every turn. Oh, hey, back so soon. Instead of taking comparator output from one of the hoppers, it'll just be easier to simply take outputs from each of our circuits. So as you can see, we just extended the lines from the side and middle circuits over to the repeater that we had placed last on the pink circuit. Just make sure no lines flow into each other, which can be done using some repeaters. All this flipping is making me feel queasy. From the repeater, we can place a block into a dot of redstone. Then, you guessed it, a dropper and hopper, comparator and dust, and lastly, a repeater. And, of course, we can't forget our sticky piston, powered by this torch, and dust to connect it all up to the reset system. From down below the comparator, we add 2 pieces of dust, flowing into a repeater. This will power a block surrounded with torches that connect to the outputs of all our circuits to fully power them. For this dropper, you only need one non-stackable item, as you want a low chance of the event of a strike to happen. Finally, we need to send the signal from this circuit to the reset system, so that in the event of a strike, the system will know that the turn is over and reset everything. We want to have the pins held down for a while before it resets, so make a long line of repeaters like so to extend the delay. Now that we're in the final stages of the system, we can finally place in all our blue ice under all of the slabs back to the hoppers. We will also add gutters to the sides, which again is totally optional. All you would need is to make a hopper line on each side of the lane that flows into the original hopper line. We can then cover the ice and hoppers up with some dark gray carpet. Any spots for carpet past the hoppers, we'll just use string to hold them up. That'll just make sure that there's no full blocks there that would maybe interfere with the redstone. Time to do some fine tuning and add our finishing touches. Another optional circuit, we can add an extra bit to the reset system. Taking input from nearly all the torches at the back here, we'll wrap the circuit around the red section, stepping up a couple blocks to avoid any interference. And continuing to the front a few blocks with a 1 block wide path, before making it a 2 block wide path in 4 blocks length. We need to send the signal down to the turn system, which will allow it to be reset when the circuit is activated. Placing our redstone in as we backtrack the section, adding a repeater here, and a pulse extender on that 2 block wide path. We also add a lot of delay with repeaters, which lets the pins stay down for a bit longer before they reset. Finally, redstone up to the step, and a torch to invert the power from it. Once more, we will have to use the tripwire hook trick to prevent our hoppers from locking up from the powered redstone. Last bit of redstone I'd like to add at the very bottom here, connecting the red, blue, and green circuits all together so that the front pins will go down every time, even when the green section isn't powering the front pins. The very last thing to do for this whole thing is to add the pins. We make the pins with armor stands, using pistons and fences to move them into position. The first one, of course, is simply placed in the front block. The second row, we push the armor stands to center on a wood fence. The third row, the middle one just gets placed, and the side two get centered on a block. And lastly, the middle two on the fourth row are centered on a fence, and the outer two push to blocks at each end. If you would like to, you can add some armor to the armor stands just to give them some extra color. And as I said in the beginning of the video, we can go ahead and move the slabs to the lane floor back. We will have to push them down with pistons, as the game does not let you place blocks where an armor stand is taking space at. Congratulations! Together, with the help of future and present day Spidey, we were able to make ourselves a fully functioning redstone bowling alley in vanilla Minecraft. I hope you all have enjoyed this video and learned a thing or two with me on the way. Make sure you hit the like button, as well as subscribe and hit the bell so you stay notified on when I upload next. Also, leave a comment on the video, as feedback is much appreciated. But with all that being said, this has been Spidey, and I wish you all a good day, a good afternoon, a good evening, and good night. Bye!